Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, President Biden hosts the Japanese Prime Minister and South Korean President at Camp David today, hoping to build a united front against China. And Americans are sending assistance to the folks in Hawaii, but criminals are trying to take that money for themselves. We'll have expert tips on avoiding charity scams.
And we are counting down the hours to high school football in Kentucky. Your full forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts right now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening and happy Football Friday. I'm Steve Hensley. President Biden chose Camp David to host a summit with Japan and South Korea. The leaders of the three countries all face military and economic challenges from North Korea and Russia. CBS's Willie James Inman has more from the White House.
President Biden invited the leaders of Japan and South Korea to Camp David for the first ever standalone summit among the three Pacific powers. It's the first time the president has hosted foreign heads of state at the Maryland retreat.
This is a historic meeting, but we've laid in place a long-term structure for a relationship that will last.
The three came into the summit hoping to improve communications and get on the same page with common security objectives, including countering North Korea and China. The coordination includes plans for multi-year military exercises and integrating a ballistic missile defense system. But it also includes steps to counter the economic threat that China poses in the region and the world.
Together, we're going to stand up for international law, freedom of navigation, and the peaceful resolution of disputes in the South China Sea.
The significance of the summit cannot be downplayed. While China and North Korea pose a threat, Japan and South Korea still have bad blood between each other, dating back to the time when Japan occupied the Korean Peninsula during World Wars I and II.
The Japanese Empire committed some of the worst atrocities against Koreans that we've seen in the history of humankind. It included, of course, the comfort women. It included forced labor.
Biden officials say they expect Beijing and Pyongyang to criticize the summit and are watching for possible retaliation. Willie James Inman, CBS News, the White House.
The leaders of the three countries all agreed that they will meet once a year, every year, in order to continue to build on the foundation established at Camp David. More than 100 firearms dealers have lost their licenses regarding gun law violations this year. The number of license revocations is up by almost 50%, even though the laws have not changed much. What is happening is that under the Biden administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is escalating enforcement of existing rules. Regulators used to issue warnings instead of revoking licenses in most cases. A federal judge has denied Donald Trump's latest request to delay a defamation trial with writer E. Jean Carroll. Carroll sued Trump for defamation in 2019 after he denied her claim that he raped her. Trump also claimed that Carroll was not his type and suggested she made up the rape claim to sell books. The former president had asked a judge to delay the case while his legal team appeals an earlier ruling. A debate concerning free speech is playing out on a national stage. Lawsuits involving the Biden administration, heated hearings in the House of Representatives, all centering around the First Amendment. WYMT Washington News Bureau reporter Peter Zampa tells us the conversation is at a boiling point.
This has become a problem.
Big tech, the Biden administration, an effort to combat so-called misinformation. Brad Smith from the Institute for Free Speech says the executive branch allegedly working with tech companies to censor social media posts represents a dangerous new world.
That's exactly what the First Amendment's intended to stop.
The alleged censorship efforts are being examined in the case Missouri versus Biden. The Biden administration is accused of a campaign to convince social media companies to take down information that might misguide Americans on vaccines and other pandemic-related information. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is trying to make this kind of activity illegal. He says his Free Speech Protection Act would impose severe penalties on executive branch employees who censor free speech.
Opinions about vaccines or masks or Hunter Biden, those are opinions, and the government has no role in trying to regulate that speech.
But what if the speech in question is causing harm to communities? In a recent House hearing, Democrat Stacey Plaskett taking aim at what she considers to be a misinformation campaign.
They want to give expression to the most vile sorts of speech here in this committee room because it prepares the ground for their own conspiracy theories and pseudoscience.
This House committee heard testimony from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democratic candidate for president and a COVID vaccine skeptic who claims he was censored. Plaskett and Maya Wiley, a civil rights attorney, say the spreading of misinformation can be destructive.
Let's descend into a real discussion of facts where we can disagree about their meaning, but not about their existence.
House Republican Jim Jordan introduced a companion bill in the House, the same as Senator Paul's. So far, only Republicans are supporting the legislation. In Washington, I'm Peter Zampa.
We are live at North Laurel High School for Game 1 of the ARH Game of the Week of the Kentucky high school football season, and the weather here at the high school is fantastic. Plenty of sunshine, blue sky, and those temperatures also very comfortable after that cold front that passed through early this morning. Let's go down the road to the London Corbin Airport. You can see, once again, plenty of sunshine over at the airport right now, and again, a very comfortable temperature over at the airport at this hour. Temperatures across the mountains are below average. We should be in the middle 80s. Most of us right now in the upper 70s. How about this? Game 1 of the high school football season doesn't get much better than this. 79 in Somerset, 78 for Jackson, and 74, a little bit cooler over in Pikeville. Now, once again, behind that front, dew points also dropping into the middle 50s. That means the air is very dry, also very comfortable as you walk out the door this evening, and that will continue as we go into tonight. If you're coming out to the ARH Game of the Week, or any games across the mountains for that matter, the weather looks to be absolutely gorgeous. We stay dry under that clear sky into tonight, and those lows fall into the 50s as you wake up and kick off the weekend. Be sure to enjoy it because the heat is not far away. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, you just can't ask for better weather tonight. Thank you, Cameron. A British neonatal nurse has been found guilty of being the UK's most prolific child serial murderer in modern times. A jury in Northern England convicted Lucy Letby of killing 7 babies and trying to kill 6 others. The crimes happened between 2015 and 2016. At the time, Letby was a nurse on the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Police say Letby murdered the very newborns she was supposed to have been caring for. The devastating wildfires in Maui have many people looking for ways to help, and scam artists are hoping to take advantage of that generosity. CBS's Michael George reports.
Donations are pouring into Maui to help the thousands of people left homeless from wildfires.
This is the type of things that our community does best. We stick together.
Besides basic needs, legitimate organizations are also asking for money, but so are criminals posing as charities.
We want people to know that whenever there's a natural disaster, scammers are quick to follow.
Colleen Tressler with the Federal Trade Commission says scam artists may contact you about donations through phone calls, email, and social media. Are there red flags that people should look out for that might be signs that it's not a legitimate charity?
Absolutely. These scammers very often create a sense of urgency, and you're really not thinking as clearly as you would normally. Some of these scammers use very similar sounding names to organizations, charities that we all know.
Another red flag, criminals often ask for payment with cash, gift cards, wire transfer, or cryptocurrency.
We really recommend that you pay by credit card, which gives you a lot more consumer protections.
Tressler says you should only donate to charities you trust. You can verify the legitimacy of a nonprofit through sites like Charity Watch, Charity Navigator, and others.
Every dollar that a scammer takes out of a generous person's pocket means that money isn't going to the people in need.
A little research can help guarantee the money you send gets to the right place. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
For more on charity scams, you can visit the Federal Trade Commission's site at ftc.gov/charity. The pro sports teams of Los Angeles are donating a total of $450,000 to help Hawaiian wildfire survivors. In a joint news release, all 12 franchises are contributing to the Red Cross. It notes Southern California has a robust Hawaiian community, and several teams have a history of training or playing preseason games in Honolulu. Buying a home in the United States just keeps getting harder. Mortgage rates are skyrocketing and home prices remain at near record highs and supply is low. Mortgage rates in the United States have soared to their highest level in 21 years. Data from Freddie Mac released yesterday shows the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged above 7% this week. 1 year ago, it was a little more than 5%. Lending Tree's senior economist explains what's causing the issue.
You have things like inflation remaining higher than ideal. You've got a lot of kind of concerns about what the Fed is going to do regarding future interest rate hikes.
Channel also says for anyone looking to buy a home, waiting out the spike may not necessarily be the best option. He adds you can end up spending more on a house than you thought you were going to by waiting too long. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, one community center in Letcher County is still working to lift the voices of those impacted by the July 2022 flood.
And the weather is fantastic as we close out the work week, but the heat is not far away. Those details coming up after this break.